Good afternoon, Hail Stalkers. We are at RoofCON for the second day, and it is busy this afternoon at the booth. People have had fun testing out the racing simulator yesterday and today. I actually got to try it out yesterday, and I can tell you it's definitely harder than it looks. Now today, I have gotten lots of questions about weather. I was grabbing my coffee earlier. Someone stopped me to say, hey, we have storms coming in tonight, right? And we talked about the timeline as they were driving home. So a lot of people are headed out of RoofCON tonight and tomorrow, and they're wondering what that severe weather will look like. Is it going to stall plans? Is it going to cancel flights? It's a few questions I've gotten today. We will get into that in a few minutes. But until then, let's turn it over to meteorologist Michaela Smith for your noon forecast.
Thank you, Taylor. Yes, a very busy forecast to talk about over the next several days. So you can see hail, tornadoes, and wind plus flooding, all modes of severe weather possible tonight through Friday. And then as you just saw Taylor mentioned, she is at RoofCON in Oklahoma City, and we're still talking about that nice January warm-up. So we're going to jump right into the forecast today. A lot to break down as we talk about all the severe weather and just all the other things that are happening right now across the area. 48-hour storm reports, nothing to report. Saw some showers closer to the Great Lake on Monday. Then you get into yesterday as well, and still a few more showers, a little bit of snow in some locations. Saw some more rainfall on the West Coast, but otherwise things have been relatively quiet the last several days, and that's what we've been talking about all week. Monday, Tuesday, we said, hey, things are nice and calm now, but that pattern's going to start to change once we get to midweek and then as we head towards the weekend. So here's a look at your current conditions. I want to give you kind of a look at what's coming ahead. So this low pressure system you see coming from California up into parts of New Mexico, that's going to quickly move this direction this afternoon and this evening. That is the storm system. That is the low pressure system that's bringing the storm chances tonight into Thursday and Friday as well. So keeping a close eye on that as it continues to move this direction. And so far you can see it's bringing some rain to portions of Arizona, eventually New Mexico going to see some rain and even snow this afternoon. And then that's what's giving us our severe weather chances a little bit later on. To the northeast, a few showers and some light snow across the coast. Going down towards the south, really nothing happening down in the Florida area. Up to the high plains, not a ton of activity. Montana, you're maybe seeing a little bit of rain and snow. Same with the West Coast, some showers in kind of Seattle, Portland area this morning. Otherwise, the weather is quiet for now. Taking a look at these temperatures, you're sitting in the 60s here in Oklahoma City. Check out those 70s in Dallas and Houston, 67 in Atlanta, but a little bit cooler to the north. Hey, Minneapolis, you were finally above freezing, 39 degrees the last several days, and we've been checking in on you. Things have been a little bit cooler. Hope you're enjoying that January thaw that we've been talking about. Billings, Montana sitting at 50, 51 currently in Vegas. Current look at some of these alerts across the country. You can see where we've had some winter weather. Really, a lot of this has been in the Rockies. Those are winter storm warnings. But then, like I just mentioned a little bit earlier on, that New Mexico today has winter storm warnings and winter weather advisories, because with that low pressure system, as it moves this direction, it's going to give us the chance to see some severe weather, but New Mexico is actually going to see some snow up in the mountains. Currently here in Oklahoma City, around this afternoon, you're sitting around 70 degrees, so nice warm up today, but also fueling our severe weather chances a little bit later on. 68 in Tulsa, and with this being the final day of RoofCON, by about 6 o'clock, if maybe you decide to have dinner before you head out from RoofCON, you're still seeing some pretty pleasant temperatures. And then by around 9 o'clock this evening, that's when things start to cool off a little bit more. At that point, Enid's in the 50s, and you're in the lower 60s in Oklahoma City. So like we've talked about, RoofCON has been here the last several days. The first time RoofCON has been in Oklahoma City. And all week long, meteorologist Taylor Cox has been out in Oklahoma City at RoofCON. We'll send it back over to her to see what that RoofCON forecast looks like for the last day and just some of the fun things that are happening at the event.
Hey Michaela, it's been busy at RoofCON today. Our booth is quite busy right now. We actually have a few dogs coming to visit us over there, so we've gotten some of that puppy love this morning. But I wanted to actually walk across the hall and show you some of the vendors that are going to be at the Raising Hail Tour. So Letter Labs is one of the vendors that's going to be at the Raising Hail Tour. They are just across the way from our booth. They are also at RoofCON. We've also got Atlas coming to the Raising Hail Tour as well. So it's been fun to catch up with everyone as we prepare for the Raising Hail Tour in February. 6 stops on that tour. We're gonna put the cities and the link to sign up for that tour in the comments section. But before then, I wanted to talk about the forecast for today and tomorrow. So let's talk about the last half of the conference here. Here's the thing. Wednesday night, we are focused on western Oklahoma. So you are severe cleared during your dinner plans here in Oklahoma City. You may hear some thunder through the overnight hours, but it's really Thursday morning that you have to keep an eye on. We're going to have a low tornado risk, hail, and high wind threat early tomorrow morning. Now, Michaela's going to break down that risk for you in more detail in just a few minutes. Now, the rain will clear out by early Thursday afternoon, so I'm not too worried about any of those flights after 11 a.m. But if you've got an early Thursday morning flight, I would keep an eye on cancellations just because of that isolated severe risk coming in. After that, temperatures are going to stay seasonably warm in the 60s and 70s for Thursday afternoon, but this is the last warm day for a bit. If you're staying here over the weekend, temperatures are getting cold with highs in the 50s and lows in the 20s through early next week. Okay, Michaela, I know a lot of people want to hear about that severe weather risk because Oklahoma isn't the only people in the path for storms. We have over 40 million people in the path for storms over the next 3 days. I'm going to send it back to you.
Thank you, Taylor. Yes, lots to talk about in terms of severe weather, and that starts tonight that we're talking about those storm chances. We have a question that says, where's the hail for the DFW area? Well, when we're talking about these storms over the next several days, I don't think DFW is really going to see much of this action, unfortunately. But as we get a little bit closer to Friday, some trends may bring a few storms, possibly Friday. It's a brand new trend that I've been seeing, and I'll talk about that here more in just a few minutes. But at least for these storms tonight, the main focus is going to be for this Wednesday night, Thursday night threat. This is day one. Again, we're talking about 3 days in a row of severe weather. So day one starts this evening, and you can see this area right here extends from West Texas, so Lubbock, San Angelo, Midland, Abilene, Wichita Falls, Lawton, getting into Oklahoma. That's that first area that we're watching for. We have a marginal risk, so that's that level 1 out of 5. So the threat for severe weather is still going to be on the lower side. We're not talking about a springtime setup that, we're typically seeing in April or May in Oklahoma, but it's January and we're talking about severe storms. So marginal risk, you can see here, evening overnight storms possible, hail and strong winds are the main threats. We have another question, how bad will it get for Houston? Again, Houston, kind of right now, you can see this map here, not really in this forecast for storms tonight. If you are really going to see any storms in Houston, we'll talk a few minutes more. The better chance for that, I think, will be going more into Friday, maybe some coastal storms. So you have still a few more days to get ready. I think the storms tonight are really going to be focused on more of Oklahoma and then moving more towards the east early tomorrow morning. Kansas, Missouri, Arkansas, that's going to be kind of that area of concern. So here's that look at Wednesday. Now we're talking about storms on Thursday. We have a larger risk for this marginal risk, but it's still only a marginal risk. That's that level 1 out of 5 again. And then this red outline is just the risk for general thunderstorms. So it's saying that the severe threat is pretty limited, but you could still hear some rumbles of thunder. We could still be talking about a few isolated storms possible. Daniel said Jackson, Tennessee, we're going to have a chance, you can see parts of Tennessee right here, for some storms Thursday into Friday for sure. I think if you're watching from Tennessee, you want to get your ears peaked a little bit more Thursday night into Friday and kind of Friday night into Saturday. That's that timeline more for storms this weekend. Areas more towards the east, and I'll show you that risk here in just a second. So here's Thursday's risk. Again, this outline here in red is that general thunderstorm. And the thing with Thursday is we're talking about 2 rounds. So whatever we have left over from tonight into tomorrow morning, that's round 1. And if things start to slow down a little bit too, things get delayed and it's maybe early tomorrow morning, you're originally talking about that time frame might be 4, 5 a.m. If it starts to shift more to maybe 8, 9 a.m., that's going to give the storm chances a little bit more fuel for those morning storms, but also may delay some of those evening storms and push those more into Friday morning. So then Friday, you're going to be kind of dealing with that 2 rounds of storms too. So if you talked about Tennessee, again, you can see Tennessee has a better chance for storms Thursday into Friday. You're in that entire general thunderstorm risk. You can also see we have a slight risk. That's a level 2 out of 5. So that's why Friday is the day that we've been watching since this weekend. The Storm Prediction Center has been highlighting all week long that Friday is the area to watch, and they continue to do so. Daytime and evening storms possible, scattered showers and storms, all hazards risk. Tornadoes, hail, wind, flooding, all going to be a possibility on Friday. And you can see again this area that's going to be highlighted in yellow. That's going to be parts of Tennessee, Alabama, a lot of Mississippi, parts of Arkansas and Louisiana as well. That's the area that has maybe the better chance to see storms for Friday. Then as we get to Saturday, there could still be some lingering showers and storms Friday night to Saturday morning. But right now there is not a risk area for Saturday. And then as you get towards your Sunday too, if you're looking ahead, maybe making plans for the weekend, right now the severe weather threat for the weekend at least looks very limited. So we can look at the significant hail model forecast and see where we have some hail chances a little bit later on today. We're talking about this threat going into Thursday, Friday, and we're not seeing a ton of huge bright colors pop up until about Friday. Then your attention really starts to get grabbed towards the Houston area. But one thing I always want to remind you, we can have the potential for hail. We can see some of the conditions would be favorable. But if there's no storms in that area, if we don't have enough lift, enough moisture, and we don't have the storms come together, it can show us that there's a potential for hail. But if there's not actually any storms there, we're not going to see anything. So that's something to keep an eye on for Friday for the Houston area. Significant hail model will get a little bit closer for today. So you can see by about 9 o'clock this evening, some of these very white, gray colors showing up. That's showing very small hail. We're talking about pennies, maybe quarter-size hail, not really overwhelmed by the hail threat at that point. Once we get towards about 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, that's when we start to see a few more of these yellowy orange colors. And this is not as impressive as it was yesterday. I'm a little shocked by that, but it is not as impressive as it was. But that does not mean that there's still not a chance for hail in portions of Texas and Oklahoma with these storms tonight into tomorrow. I think it's just going to be very isolated, these storms that we're talking about in nature. This is around 9 a.m. You're still seeing some of these yellows and oranges popping up. Then as we go towards Thursday, this is that risk area that we've been watching for. So we'll continue to watch for hail going into Thursday afternoon. And by Friday, again, down near the Texas coast and Louisiana. It's really grabbing my attention, but I think a lot of this too is just showing us that it's fueling these storms, that a lot of the ingredients that we need for storms will be in place by Friday afternoon, which is why all week long Friday has been that day again that we've all kind of had our bullseye on. But this is a multiple day event, so we're talking about the hail forecast for today. This area highlighted in yellow, again, going back into parts of West Texas, so areas like San Angelo, Abilene, you are going to have the chance to see some smaller hail, but that risk again is very low. I did highlight more of the Oklahoma City area back closer to Lawton, just because I do think the timing of some of these storms, and again, if some of these storms do start to slow down slightly, will help increase our risk for hail just a little bit more, which is why the risk level, it's still not the most significant. It's not off the charts. Again, this is not springtime, but it's at that moderate risk. We're not talking about a low risk level, just getting my attention, catching my eye a little bit more. Dallas, again, you are not in this risk for hail for today. I did also up the hail size just a little bit more for storms tonight into tomorrow. Maximum hail size I think we're talking about is 2 inches, around a hen egg. Now, do I think every single hailstone that falls, if we do have any storms, is going to be that size? No, I don't think that at all. I still think a lot of these storms are going to be ping pong ball size or smaller, but that doesn't mean with some of these very isolated storms, very isolated hailstones, we could see some storms again up to maybe golf ball, hen egg size hail. Now for today and tonight, I also want to mention the threat for wind with some of these storms. So that's what I said at the beginning of the forecast, that Wednesday, that threat Wednesday into Thursday was going to be a hail and wind forecast. That was kind of the major concern. The tornado threat is pretty limited. So Oklahoma City, Wichita Falls, down to Abilene, you can see this is this kind of wind forecast that we're talking about. And again, the risk level is pretty low. Few storms that we could see some of these winds, 50 to 60, 65, 70 miles per hour, definitely possible. But I think that risk is going to be pretty limited because these storms will be pretty isolated in nature later on. So let's look at this future radar. Here's where that low pressure system is coming off areas like California, Mexico, Arizona, into New Mexico. This is this afternoon, so as that low pressure system gets a little bit closer, the storm chances start to go up. New Mexico starts to see some of that snow that we mentioned, why they have those winter weather warnings this evening, late into the overnight hours. But around 2 a.m., you start to see this line of storms that form in parts of Texas. By 8 o'clock in the morning, this is our HER model, showing storms across Oklahoma and Kansas. Continuing to see these storms by about 10, 11 a.m. Now they're into Missouri, Kansas City, right around lunchtime tomorrow, noon, you're seeing some of these storms. And then by St. Louis, around 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening, you're seeing some of these storms as well. So this is a pretty robust system. It's going to be several days again that we're talking about these storms, and that all starts tonight into tomorrow. So here's a closer look at what I just showed you. Again, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, this is when that line will start to form, but there will still be some showers ahead of that main line. So if you hear some rumbles of thunder, you hear some rain falling on your roof closer to midnight in Oklahoma, that's not that main risk that we're talking about. That will still come tomorrow morning. So here's that line of storms from Wichita, Kansas through Oklahoma City, back towards Lawton, Wichita Falls. Then as you continue more towards the afternoon, this is 11 noonish, Kansas City again, you're seeing those storms down into Tulsa. You play this forward a little bit more. Now it's moving more across portions of Missouri, and you're getting closer to St. Louis by about 6 o'clock in the evening. These storms are starting to wrap up, and then you see more of those storms trying to develop Thursday afternoon. It all depends on the timing and what kind of is left over in the atmosphere tomorrow morning. Before we jump into Thursday's risk, we still good, John? Any questions we have?
We got some shout outs.
Got some shout outs. Love shout outs. Chipper, as always, watching, said hashtag HailTrace team. Thank you, Chipper, for watching. We appreciate you so much. Flight Girl Tracker said watching from Columbus, Ohio. Thank you for watching. We're so happy that you're here. Lots of breakdown. Ohio might miss a lot of these storms, but that doesn't mean your storm timing isn't coming probably in the next several weeks. All right, let's talk about this hail threat for Thursday. So you can see this is shifting slightly more towards the east as the system pushes away. We're seeing more of these storm chances increasing. This hail forecast is for Tulsa, Oklahoma City, Texarkana, St. Louis for tomorrow. As you can see, some of the hail size, again, it's a little bit lower than what we went with for today. I think it just all depends on the timing of these storms tonight into tomorrow. That may change some of those details. And that risk level still in central Oklahoma with those kind of leftover storms Wednesday into Thursday. I think that's why I gave that risk a little bit higher. St. Louis, I think you do have a chance to see some storms tomorrow evening down into Texarkana as well. But I did make that risk level just a little bit lower for those Thursday storms. Maximum hail size for tomorrow, Thursday, January 8th. I went ahead and still went with golf balls, so still a possibility to see some over severe size hail. Severe size hail is at quarter, so 1 inch, so definitely still a chance to see hail that's warned over severe, but I think the hail sizes might be a little bit smaller for tomorrow, but again, we'll have to see how things go for today. Something for tomorrow, though, that we're not dealing with for today is the tornado threat. I told you that the threat tonight into tomorrow is very limited, and that's true. By tomorrow, though, with some of these storms, again, if they start to slow down, we cannot rule out an isolated tornado threat possible for eastern Oklahoma. This even may shift back more towards central Oklahoma, so Oklahoma City, you are not out of that risk just yet. St. Louis, Memphis, Little Rock, Jackson, lots of areas on this map that, again, have a chance. Even though it's a very low chance for tornadoes on Thursday, I still want to go ahead and get your attention. Now, as you look at this future radar, we're playing this forward, and there will continue to be more storm chances possible as we go ahead. Let me see really quickly. I don't want to take away. Okay, here we go. Let's play this back a little bit more. Perfect. Okay, let's start this from the beginning. This is a different model that we're using. So earlier I showed you the HRRR. This is the graph. So this is for tonight's storms. This model is bringing storms into central Oklahoma closer to about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. So different models have different timing, and that's what I'm saying. Depending on when these storms actually happen, that's going to influence Thursday storms, which will in turn influence Friday storms. Some models want to bring things in a little bit quicker. Others are really delaying some of these storms. So this is still right around 6 a.m. Heavy rainfall across Oklahoma City, back up to Wichita, Kansas. This is right around 10 o'clock now. We said earlier it was noon for Kansas City, so this is a couple hours earlier. And you still see this area bringing storms to St. Louis by about 2 in the afternoon instead of 5, 6 o'clock in the evening. So that's why we're watching this. Then you can see this timeline is bringing storms late Thursday into Friday instead of it being Thursday evening. Now this is more like a Friday morning risk. This is 3 o'clock in the morning. You're seeing some of these storms start to develop, and that will be one of the areas that we watch kind of midday Friday into Friday evening. That'll be that next chance. And this is what I was mentioning earlier. Someone asked about Dallas. This is pretty new that we're seeing storms all the way back towards Dallas on Friday. This has not been happening in some of the newest models. So this is like one of the newer models. Old models, it wasn't doing that. It's just now starting to do that, so that's catching my attention. John said, excited about the rain, Michaela. Me too. It's been a very long time for areas like North Texas, the Texas Panhandle, Oklahoma, areas in Wichita. We really need the rain. We've been without it for a very long time. Here's 10:30 on Friday. So again, morning activity clears out, and then we start to see more storms Friday evening. Now this is the Euro. It's going to play it out a little bit further. So there again is 9 a.m. Thursday. So that's a different model, again, showing you a little bit later timeline. This is giving an indication that it wants to bring storms in Thursday night. So we're watching, again, all these different trends for a reason. Here's 3 o'clock Friday morning. Then as you play this ahead, I accidentally clicked the wrong button here, everybody. Then as you play this ahead, there's 8 a.m. on Friday. You get to the middle of the day Friday, and then Friday evening, here's that second wave that I'm watching closely, and I think that second wave will have the better chance to bring some severe weather Friday. So looking specifically at Friday, Friday has a slight risk, like I mentioned to you earlier. That's the highest risk we have all week. It's a marginal risk today and tomorrow. Friday has that yellow risk, Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi, Arkansas, Louisiana, and that's for daytime and evening storms. So that first round that I just showed you could still bring some severe weather in the morning, but the second round, that's one that still has my attention, and all hazards will be possible with these storms for Friday. Now, something else I want to mention for Friday. Today we don't really have a flood risk. Tomorrow we don't really have a flood risk, but by Friday, we're watching for the risk for flash flooding. So there's a lot of moisture that's going to be in place. That's what's giving us these storm chances. But we still have a level 2 out of 4 risk. So hazards are scattered flash flooding. That doesn't mean, oh, maybe a few people know. That means we're probably going to get some flash flooding reports on Friday. And this extends, and then this level 1 also risk for Friday. So this is also catching my attention. We have not seen a ton of rain in a lot of these areas in quite some time. Now we're talking about a lot of rainfall in a very short amount of time. So that's why it's an all risk hazard on Friday, because you're also thinking about severe weather, okay, tornadoes, hail, and wind, but then you have to deal with the flash flooding threat as well. Good news is, again, by the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, we go back to not worrying about storms. So in turn, we're not really worried about that flooding chance. Here's highlighting over the next 5 days where we could see a lot of rainfall, finally bringing it to the plains, central U.S., and the deep south. But you can see in areas like Mississippi, Alabama, 3 to 5 inches. That's a lot of rain in a very short amount of time. All right, before we get away from severe weather, any other questions, you can write them really quickly. John will watch them very closely. If I need to go back and go over anything, always happy to do so. If not, we're going to talk about the January thaw that continues to kind of fuel some of this severe weather, is the fact that temperatures are well above average where they should be this time of year. Here's today, you can see, wow, across the U.S., we are all experiencing anywhere from 15 to 25 degrees warmer temperatures than what we'd usually see at this point in January. By tomorrow, you start to see more of that change. There's your Thursday outlook, especially areas off towards the west coast, you're getting a little bit cooler. Friday, big change, and this is why this is the day that we're talking about for severe weather. When we see these splits kind of right across the middle of the country, these big divides, that usually is an indication that we have a powerful storm system moving in, and in turn that storm system will give us the severe weather chances. So areas like Denver, Oklahoma and Texas Panhandle, New Mexico, you're talking about some really colder temperatures Friday. Saturday, things are a little bit more mild unless you're along the East Coast. Things are still pretty warm at that point. Then by Sunday, you start to get a little bit cooler. And then Monday into Tuesday next week, oh, yep, here comes the warmth. It doesn't stay gone for very long. So what does that look like for temperatures? Well, the rest of today, you're in the 60s and 70s if you're in the south. Tomorrow morning, a little bit chilly of a start, but warming up in the afternoon. Friday morning, you start to see some temperatures dropping back into the teens and 20s, below freezing. Indianapolis, you're sitting at 24. Then as you get to Saturday, here's that cold air that we just saw. You're in the 30s in Oklahoma City in the morning, 40s in Dallas, 39 in St. Louis. Still plenty warm, though, where we're talking about storms in the deep south. You see that low pressure system that's bringing some of that colder air this weekend. There's Saturday afternoon temperatures. By Sunday, a good chunk of the U.S. is starting off pretty chilly in the morning. Western Florida, Jacksonville's at 63. You're right around freezing Oklahoma City, below freezing 24 in Kansas City, 28 in Denver, so cold on Sunday morning. But by Sunday afternoon, things do start to heat up. So as you look at this extended temp outlook, this is valid the 12th through the 16th, so really looking through the middle of January. And a good chunk of the U.S. continues to trend warmer than average, especially where things have been very cold in December, up closer to Canada and the Great Lakes. You're going to start to see more of that nice thaw. And then we still have a little bit of a trend of cooler than average conditions for areas like Houston, parts of Florida, maybe Louisiana, like the NOLA area. You might see things a little bit cooler. And that rain outlook, for a lot of us, it just continues to be bone dry. A positive trend, at least to me, that I'm seeing is this nice big block of drier than average conditions finally setting up over the west coast. After over a month of an atmospheric river and just continuous rain falling across California, Oregon, Washington, they've been dealing with so much flooding. This is a welcome sight to see that things are starting to dry out as we look towards the middle of January. All right, without any more questions about the weather, I want to go back out to meteorologist Taylor Cox just one more time. Again, it's the final day of RoofCon. So many fun things are happening. I'm sure there's a ton of events that are going on during the day, and she is out there right now live. Taylor, what are things looking like at RoofCon as everything's getting kind of ready to wrap up for this final day?
Hey, Kayla. Yes, we are having a great time out here today. You see that we've got demos going on our touch screen right here. We can look at any map or any storm that has hit over the last 15 years, and you can see that obviously right in front of me, and you can see exactly how to use our app, how to use the app, or you want to get set up on a program. That here at RoofCon, of course, we've got the simulator running as well. Let me show you this really cool simulator back here. Back here. And simulators, you can
I
see that
love that
we
this
right
always.
now. Uh, what do you guys think? How's your time? Has it improved? We're trying to do a donut. We're just going in circles today. It's been pretty busy this week, and we're hoping to continue that this afternoon.
That's awesome. And I love seeing people constantly using that simulator. I don't think anytime you've showed us anything all week, there's not been someone sitting at that simulator.
Oh, you want to say hi? We are live right now. Oh, it's my turn to get in there. Okay, well, I'm about to get in there. Yes, you're right. It's been very, very busy, Michaela. We've always had someone sitting in the turn is Michaela. I'll let you go here.
Sounds good. Have fun and good luck. I know she's about to get challenged again on that simulator, so we're wishing Taylor luck. Maybe she'll beat Simon's time. Everyone all week has been trying to beat Simon, Derek, our CEO's son's racing time, and I still don't think, I haven't heard any reports yet that anyone has actually been able to beat his time. Well, with all that, again, the fun happening at RoofCon and everything else going on in the forecast, it was a very busy one today. Thank you for those who stuck around and tuned in for the entirety of it. And if you want any details about the severe weather, we're going to continue to post that throughout the rest of today, tomorrow, Friday. As this 3-day event goes down, we're going to constantly keep you updated. So make sure you're following us on our social media pages. You can follow us at Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. We're active on every single one of those platforms. And with it being a brand new year, now that we're talking about storm chances, if you don't have a subscription just yet, you need to get one so you can see what Taylor was just showing you, those hail, wind, and tornado maps. It's going to be very important for you to have as severe weather season begins. So if you want a subscription, give us a call, 855-334-4245, or you can email us at info@hailtrace.com, or you can visit our website at hailtrace.com as well. Again, we will keep you updated on the threats that are happening in severe weather over the next several days, and Taylor will be back here tomorrow. Now that RoofCon is ending, same time here,